Now, Softbank shares in Tokyo were up nearly 9% following this news. Following all the buzz about Oracle and TikTok, you've seen the Oracle shares pre-market being up 6%. I'm going to be discussing this and a lot more today with Wang, the founder of Constellation Research. Ray, thank you so much for joining us here in India. I know it's early morning for you, so I really appreciate that. They're the big deals everyone around the world are talking about. Let's begin with the first one, ByteDance. We don't know as yet if China is going to allow that particular transaction to go through, but for now, it seems like Microsoft has been snubbed by Oracle. What do you make of this development?
This is a very interesting deal for many counts. So one of the reasons that there was an issue with TikTok was really about data and data residency, how the data was being processed, if the data was being mined of US citizens from China. And so I think a lot of the challenge was really trying to figure out where that cloud computing element was going to be. So one element is the cloud computing aspect, which we now know Oracle is probably going to be the technology partner of the deal. The question then is what happens to the advertising operations for TikTok in the US? Is that part of the arrangement with Oracle or not? Because if it is, it would be very powerful for Oracle to suddenly become an ad network, because they already have 300 million profiles that they use already in third-party data for marketing and direct marketing activities. And it could make Oracle the next digital giant in digital advertising. And then the last piece is really the US-China relationships, really about the geotech implications of being able to manipulate, keep China happy and keep the US happy. But you're right, this deal is also going to require China scrutiny, as well as what's going on in the White House.
Absolutely, and US President Donald Trump, in fact, has been emphatic: either be sold by September 15th or be banned. And in fact, he wants the Treasury to even get a commission, like in the investment, the way the investment banks do work. So you're right about how this could be a big leap for Oracle to become a full-scale digital company, rely on advertising. We don't know if it's going to be allowed to go through. But if it does go through, the branding of TikTok, do you think that can stay? Because, you know, the US is TikTok's biggest market after India.
There's definitely going to be the branding. They would keep that. There's 100 million monthly active users, right? The basis of every digital giant is having the large number of users, a large amount of data, a large amount of signal intelligence that gets used to sell you an ad or make recommendations. That's the part they wouldn't get rid of if you were to continue operations in the US. If you would touch that, most of the value of TikTok would go away.
But Ray, if they do keep the branding of TikTok, would that imply that a royalty would have to be paid to ByteDance? I don't know if the US government would allow that ever.
I don't know what the final details are. We only have about probably less than 24 hours for this deal to see what would happen in terms of the final negotiations. What the biggest sensitivity was really where data was going to reside, the security of that data, and Oracle has stepped in to play that role. The question then comes as, do we operate the advertising business? Does that still remain in the US? Does that remain in China? Is there a licensing fee? I think those are questions that are going to still be answered as the deal and the details of the deal emerge.
Okay, now I want to move on to the other big deal of the day. Softbank selling ARM to Nvidia for $40 billion is the largest deal that we have in 2020, the largest ever for semiconductors too. What can this mean for tech investments and M&A? You know, Softbank, for example, has been famously called the Nasdaq Whale for the last week, 10 days.
So SoftBank made a lot of strategic acquisitions about 3 to 5 years back, and they're starting to pay off for them. This is one of them. ARM, if people don't know what ARM does, it is the clearinghouse. They design chips, they license these technologies, they test it. So it's almost like design, test. It's almost like the underwriters labs, model of actually chipping and then actually reselling that IP and making it easy for other people to do that. Now, they primarily focus on CPUs, but the world has moved on to GPUs. GPUs have won to be the predominant chip that you want in data centers, in Internet of Things, in artificial intelligence, in autonomous vehicles. And this is the future. And so I believe NVIDIA sees this as a way to expand its distribution, not take over the company or, eliminate jobs or bring the company back to the US, but use as an opportunity to take what's been built by ARM and use that effectively to actually get the GPU everywhere and expand the use of the GPU, which is NVIDIA's core technology.
Is this a precursor, you feel, for other deals that could be announced in the latter part of 2020? Nvidia is a powerhouse when it comes to, for example, graphics, but it's making a large play here. And isn't that going to get a lot of other media kind of companies a bit paranoid?
I don't know if it's going to get media companies paranoid, but we are in the age of digital giants. And what is happening as these larger companies are taking advantage of this opportunity with low interest rates, low borrowing rates, high tech stock valuations to make deals. From what we understand, there are something like 50 to 60 deals this size that are being considered right now by bankers and investment bankers and even PE firms in terms of reshaping where the industry goes. And a lot of this really talks about collapsing the industries and collapsing those value chains as their reach get bigger and bigger. So we're about to see some shifts in terms of how large organizations are going to get, and more importantly, what are antitrust regulators going to do going forward.
So is this going to be a big challenge going forward, the point that you bring about antitrust regulators? You can look at Oracle, TikTok, you can look at Nvidia and Softbank. Are these testing the regulations as they exist at the moment?
We are definitely testing the regulations. There's a book I'm writing that's coming out in July about digital giants, and we do see the regulatory aspect taking hold. The challenge, though, is we are in the midst of a war between US and China in terms of technology dominance, and every country in between is being asked to choose sides. Along that, there's also the European Union, which is playing a big role in antitrust, trying to figure out the privacy regulations that are required. And more importantly, India trying to figure out how they're going to play in that emerging world. And so those four big forces are going to change how we look at acquisitions. It's going to change everything from how we buy things, how we live, and even where we work. And this shift is happening right now.
And in fact, you have seen certain regulators in different geographies react differently, right? So whether you have in Australia telling Google it must pay royalty on news, or we've seen recent times what's happened with Google at EU. Don't even get me started on Facebook and the various ways we've seen antitrust regulators go for them. But we're in uncharted territory. There's no going back. Digital is the new normal, and the normal that's going to stay forever, challenging traditional companies. Isn't that something that we just have to accept and move on with?
I think it's part of that, but we also have to bring together some rights for citizens. For example, these companies are taking advantage of the fact that our personal data and our information is being used for free, and they're using that information to generate businesses which they sell back to us. When that value exchange is broken, where we're not getting enough back for the value that's created for a free product, we have to then re-examine that. Right now, the benefits still outweigh the costs to society. And when that equation changes, that's when you're going to see the US regulators take a step. Now, in EU, it's a little bit different. EU is thinking about what do they have to do to remain competitive? What do they have to do to keep these big evil giants from coming into their countries? And that's a kind of different discussion. China's playing a different game because they're using the Belt and Road to expand their technology and create a little bit of, it's more about influence and power and international relationships, using their technology as a vehicle to really go after the US dollar, to go after, different systems, whether you believe in one model of capitalism, another model of democracy. That's what they're attacking, right? And then, of course, right, in India, we're talking about one of the world's biggest markets, 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion people that actually have to think about what is that future for India and how do they want to engage? And you already see some of those engagements with the way Mukesh Ambani's worked with Reliance and the partnerships with Western technology firms to provide the technology partnerships, but keep the business within India.
Absolutely, and with that, he's entered the new rich list as well that's come out. He's managed to get competitors, whether it is WhatsApp Pay or Google Pay, under the umbrella of Rel Geo 2. Ray, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm sure it's what, about 5:30, 5:45 a.m. for you in California. We really appreciate you giving us this time, and we look forward to many more interactions with you.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.